Hello everyone and welcome to another ESV TV Player Spotlight. This is again going to be with SlayerSCrank, an excellent up-and-coming protoss player. Let's take a look at him. Here he is, Crank, a protoss player hailing from South Korea from Team Slayers. Really sick up-and-coming protoss player that if you're not watching already, you should be. That's why we're making these videos, get him some more exposure because he's so good. So good. We're going to be watching another PvZ of his here, and it's going to be on Tal'Darim Maltra. Let's jump right in. Alright, here it is, guys. PvZ between SlayerSCrank as our red protoss in the bottom right against none other than TSL's Symbol, a blue Zerg. As I said, TSL Team SCB Life is the team he's representing. Ooh, a slight misrally there. And Symbol is just an all-around awesome Zerg. All-around awesome. Specifically, I'm trying to think of which matchup is his best matchup right now. ZVT is like, I would say is, maybe ZVP, I don't know. Maybe ZVZ. His ZVZ is actually really good, as are pretty much all TSL Zergs have really good ZVZ. So we're going to be seeing a Forge expansion from Crank. I guess we'll see, we'll get to see what his ZVP is looking like in this game. And I'm really interested to see how Crank's going to play. The last player spotlight we saw of him playing PvZ was a crazy game that he almost lost and then had an epic comeback on. Thanks to some late game Void Rays and a mothership usage. Look at that, so smart. Doesn't even send his scouting probe to check all the way to the hatchery. Even has it, queued to just check for the creep. Have that max efficiency to get from base to base as quickly as possible. But lucky for him, he scouts his opponent the first time. Even with pylon scouting, if you scout your opponent last, like let's say he scouted this way, you don't get there before hatch first could happen. So even after a pylon scout, a hatch first could happen on this map. That's what's crazy. So it's good that he scouted him first. It's going to prevent Symbol from being able to do hatch first. He's going to have to go for that bulverse. Oh my god, the probe barely dies. Did you see that range on that drone? That drone has been doing sit-ups or something. His spit range is ridiculous. What is it? Claws? Claws? I thought they were like spitting some acid or something. Those are some long claws, man. That guy's got a stretchy arm or something. I don't know. In any case, losing a scouting probe is just absolutely devastating as a protoss player in PvZ. You can't block the hatchery from going down, as you can see. But usually you want to block that as long as possible. You can't scout to see what the Zerg's doing. They could be doing some type of ridiculous one-base roach all in on you now. Or they could be just playing a macro game. You never know. So Crank in the dark right now, it's going to hurt. I'm surprised he hasn't already sent out another probe to go figure out exactly what his opponent's doing. We'll probably just send that out at a later timing. Interesting cannon placement. So he's going to drop his gateway here and have this be the positioning between his pylon and cannon. That's going to be like the little spot where he leaves the zealot. There's his gate. This is a dangerous wall, though. Let me explain. Like, this is a really dangerous wall. There's a couple reasons. First off, this is a diagonal position between the gateway and the forge, which means only small units can get through. Granted, there's a pylon blocking, but a pylon is one of the lowest HP units in the or buildings in the Protoss arsenal. Cannon is the only one lower, 300 HP total. Pylon's 400. So, if a Baneling bust, for example, if a Baneling bust comes, it just sends 6 Banelings right in here to pick off that pylon, and all of a sudden, Protoss is in some serious trouble, and you can just stream Zerglings in through there. On top of that, while this cannon's behind the gateway, like this choke point here is the only thing like preventing it. It's not like far back or anything. So, yet again, if a Baneling bust came right here, even if there's a Zealot blocking, they blow up on the Zealot, they're going to kill the cannon and the pylon at the same time. So this wall from Crank is unbelievably risky. We'll see if Symbol actually decides to do anything to bust it, though. He's not usually a player that will go for Baneling busts. Sometimes we'll see Roach busts out of him, though. It's one of those things I always talk about when I see a Protoss player do such a risky, dangerous wall-in, but it so rarely actually gets punished. So we might not actually see that come into play this game, but it's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to develop your Forge wall-ins at home. Don't do it this way on ladder. You will just lose anytime you get Baneling busted, unless you're SlayerSCrank and have the best micro in the world, I guess. It's tough, man. You have to like drop a whole bunch of buildings behind it. He's got a really fast +1 on the way, though. And he does have a scouting probe checking around. He's going to check for a third base, or Lings picking off the destructible rocks, or sometimes players just drop a third hatch right next to it. And we're actually seeing quad gas get thrown down from Symbol. He does not want to let Crank scout this. If he lets Crank scout the quad gas, oh, he's already going to see one of the gases at the natural. That's it, though. He only sees one gas. He doesn't know. Still, when would a Zerg be throwing down the gas at the natural already? They'd probably be throwing them up in the main so they can't be scouted. So he should realize his opponent's probably at least on 3 gas right now. So what is Symbol going to do? Well, it could be a fast lair into fast Muta. Muta is so popular on this map. Could be some ridiculous Hydra Nidus all-in or something like that. There's his fast lair. Could still be either of those options. Could even be something ridiculous like Baneling drops. You never know. We did see a Stargate transition here, though, from Crank. He doesn't have a lot of scouting information, wants to figure out what his opponent's going for, and take some map control. That's what this play is excellent for. You pick off any overlords around your base, so your opponent doesn't have scouting information, can't get scouting information as to what type of all-in you might or might not be doing. And you get to clear out every zone like a tower, so Lings can't keep holding those. And when you're playing Zerg, and your vision is like Symbols is right now, you feel confident. You'll see when there's an army moving out, and then you can just drop a bunch of spawns, drop a bunch of units, know what you have to do. If you're playing and all your vision is in your bases, and you can't even see the Zealot tower, you're scared. You have to play so much less risky. So this is a great play to go for the Stargate. Get a Void Ray. You don't have to go for a lot and try to do damage. You just get 1 Void Ray. Sometimes we'll see 4 to 5 Phoenixes go for harass. Sometimes players will just get literally 1 Phoenix just to go and scout and get straight into their opponent's base. We actually see... What is this? A Roach Warren +1 and a Hydra Den. This is bizarre. Symbol rushed quad gas, and yet it looks like he's just trying to go for a standard Roach Hydra composition off 2 base. Just not something we see very often. I don't know, maybe he'll mix in like a Nidus as well or something, but just to go Roach Hydra and try to attack the front is pretty bizarre. I mean, a lot more Zergs nowadays are going for quick Hydras, but usually it's like we'll see a 3 hatch before gas, and then instead of just going early Roaches, sometimes on the Korean ladder, a lot of Zergs are going for quick Hydras as well after their initial Roach defense. But to go 2 base Roach Hydra, it's just not something we see very often at all. So I'm very interested to see what Symbol's planning on with this and how Crank is going to plan on defending. And it was just 1 Phoenix, so you just built 1 Phoenix for scouting, not going to go for that aggression, not going to go for that harass. And that means he saw the Hydrogen. That's why we saw him drop the Robo Facility immediately. He wants to get out some Immortals to deal with the Roaches. Wants to be able to rush Colossi to deal with the Hydras. Will it be in time, though? He might have to drop a second Robo when he drops that Robo Bay. Actually, no, he's going to 6 gates, so I doubt he'll be able to afford double Robo Colossus. Probably just going to be 6 gate plus 1 Robo pumping out Colossi. Starting to move forward with only 3 sentries. Pretty crazy. A high Zealot count as well. I'm surprised he made 3 Zealots. Does have 1-1 completing. Unfortunately, no Twilight, so not going to be able to continue to 2-1 or anything like that. Hydra's already starting to move across the map with no creep spread, unfortunately. Would have loved to have seen with this quick lair. Obviously, there was a Void Ray patrolling around, but if he got his Hydras out in time, would have loved to see a creep highway get set up for these Hydras. But he's already starting to move out, and this is pretty risky. I mean, he just doesn't have that many units, and just Hydras by themselves off creep. If you ever get into a situation where you're losing the engagement, sorry, you can't fall back. You can't disengage. You're going to lose every single Hydra. So you have to be ready to engage. Luckily for him, the Colossus production is nowhere near completing. 3rd base. No, that's a macro hatch. Symbol still hasn't taken a 3rd base. That's crazy. And this Phoenix getting so much scouting information here. Is going to see that actually a couple Roaches were left at home. Oh, Krank's got to be careful. You can't just move out into Roaches and Hydras like that. But that's not a very big Roach Hydra force. So while he's taking a little bit of damage here, losing the cannon. Symbol just has to be a little bit careful against those forces. If he gets caught off guard, he can lose a lot of units. And you just lose too many Roaches here and everything spirals out of control, you're going to lose all your Hydras for free. First Colossus is already on the way, about halfway done, so this push is limited. Once the first Colossus comes out, if there was constant production of Roaches and Hydras on the way here, then yes, he would need more than 1 Colossus. But with this small of an army, 1 Colossus, and this push is going to be over. In fact, Symbol having taken out those units and seeing the Robo being chronoed, I was just about to say I'd advise him to fall back, and he does. So smart. If you can avoid losing all these Hydras for free, that just makes your later game play so much stronger. And the Spire is already almost complete. Now, I'm curious. Is he going to go Muta? That's so popular on this map. The bases are so disjointed. Especially after forcing Colossi out of his opponent and seeing that he made so many Zealots as opposed to a lot of Stalkers. Or is he just going to go Corruptor to deal with the Colossi? I feel like Muta would be a much better choice, but you never know. He might just go Roach Hydra Corruptor. And he's double expanding behind this as well. So I hope it'll be Muta. If you're going to double expand, you got to have Muta to keep your opponent contained so they can't put pressure. Okay, it's going to be Muta. Good. We'll see how well he can do, how much damage he can do with that. It's going to be hard for Crank to defend, but he is making pure Stalker from here on. Where's the Twilight Council? He added a Forge, but no Twilight to be able to continue upgrades. He's going to need that Twilight to be able to get Blink. Still only 1 Phoenix, though. I don't think he scouted the Spire out, did he? Uh-oh. He hasn't been able to get in there since that Phoenix got a little bit too low on HP. He did not scout the Spire. Doesn't know that a Muta transition is on the way. Should realize something's up based on the lack of aggression. What Zerg? Let me ponder this. What Zerg would go Roach Hydra on 2 base, whoops, didn't mean to hit spacebar there, and not pressure you to deny a third? Why? Like, what Zerg would do that unless they're tech switching? So he's got to be aware that some type of tech switch is en route here. Where are those mutas? I feel like this is one of those situations when you see your opponent rush Colossi and make a lot of Zealots, the earlier you get your mutas out, even if it's only 8 mutas, get them in there, man. Attack some probes. Get the stalkers over there. Then send your mutas over to the main. Attack the probes over there. This is not one of those situations where you just want to sit around and build up until you have 20 mutas and then attack. They'll have too many stalkers by then. And that's exactly the problem he's going to run into here. There are a lot of stalkers out now. He can still do a lot of damage. These bases are so disconnected that especially without Blink, but even with Blink, it's hard. It's hard to defend all the different bases at the same time. These mutas should easily be able to pick off these 3 stalkers and start picking off some probes here. Oh, no, he falls back. What? Oh, this is crucial. The damage has to be done right now as the mutas are first shown. You don't want to let the Protoss build up more and more defenses against mutas. Unfortunately, the stalker's just a little bit out of position. Mutas run away from sentries. Wow, he could have picked off every single one of those sentries there. Symbol, unfortunately, just making some slight missed decision-making here and not able to actually do the amount of harass that he should have been able to do with this build. I mean, with Blink having like, the Twilight Council wasn't even started when the mutas showed up, so he should have been able to do a lot of damage here, but unfortunately, Symbol just not in the right place in the right time, and Crank just doing such a good job keeping his stalkers split up, adding some cannons at the natural, but actually doesn't have stalkers position there, but he knows. He saw those mutas move down there. He's going to move the stalkers in position, and Symbol, he's always just a little bit too slow. You can tell his APM is just not quite there. Every time he moves his mutas over here, they sit there for a while, and then he moves them into the natural. Whereas you see players like, I don't know, like Idra, like, who else is like a huge muta user every game? Donregu sometimes, but he likes to use Infestors a lot. Lenok uses mutas a lot. You'll see those players, you'll just see their mutas constantly be moving. Like, your mutas should never be sitting at home not moving like this. That allows the Protoss to move out. There's no reason the Protoss should be able to move out right now. Like, he only has a couple cannons. Your mutas should be able to take those out easily. You need to force the Stalkers to stay at home. If you move your mutas back like that, then the Protoss just gets to go all in you. And you're screwed. So, unfortunately, Symbol not making the most of this muta harass, even with 20 mutas in this composition. And now, uh-oh, this is bad for Symbol. Crank's starting to move over these Colossi. Once the army gets to your base, you don't really have that opportunity to just force them to fall back by sending your mutas to their base anymore. You have to kind of use them to defend, or you're going to lose everything. Unless you want to get yourself into a base trade scenario, which he's clearly not prepared for yet. Doesn't have the mass spine crawlers. Doesn't have bases all over the map. Now he's starting to lose mutas against Stalkers. What are you doing? Fighting 1-1 Blink Stalkers with 1-0 mutas. Symbol, unfortunately, falling just a little bit apart here. Crank, such a good play, noticing that those mutas were out of position and immediately seizing the opportunity and moving forward. That's something so many Protoss players are unable to do. Wow, he is ballsy. Taking that Nexus right next to the Zerg expansion here. But it's something so many Protoss players don't do. They don't, the muta aggression lets up just a little bit, and instead of immediately moving out to attack, they continue to sit back and turtle, and then the mutas come back and continue to keep them contained. Why is he not taking out that base with those mutas? I do not know. But Crank sees the opportunity. I'm surprised he's not moving the Colossi up here and blinking the Stalkers in to take out that base, but he wants to defend this forward. Against the mutas, they're actually target firing down Stalkers in production instead of target firing the Nexus, so the Nexus will complete. Things are getting more and more bleak here from Symbol. Finally started getting some Infestors out to help deal with the Blink micro, but will it be enough? It might be too little too late. Fleet Beacon's already completing, so we're already going to have a Mothership coming out pretty soon here. For Crank, you can see he very intentionally left himself with 8 food available for that. And that will just destroy anything that Symbol has at this point. Greater Spire's on the way, but I mean, what's he going to do? He's going to have to clear up food to get Broodlords. He doesn't have that much of a bank. Doesn't have that much gas. Roach is going to engage here, but they're only going to pick off the Assimilator. Not even that. Just a couple Stalkers. I like that he's taking the whole map. But I'm honestly so worried for Symbol right now. This is just a precarious situation. I like that he's continuing his upgrades. Finally, 2-1 on the way. Wow, that is some... Those are some late upgrades. He's got 2-1 for his Roaches. I guess melee attacks. He wants to get that for his Broodlords, for his Broodlings, of course. Only 1-0 for his Air, though. He only has 1 Spire, which is being morphed into a Greater Spire. Can't continue to do upgrade. Meanwhile, the Mothership is already halfway done for Crank. And he's getting a Warp Prism with Warp Prism speed. I love that. Plus 3 attacks on the way. He's getting Storm. I would just be so giddy if he went for a Storm drop. That would be the sickest thing ever. Anyone who watches my streams knows I'm quite enamored of Storm drops. It's possibly the most cost-efficient in terms of using energy instead of units cost-efficient Protoss harass there is. But I gotta feel like once this Mothership pops out that Crank's just